So you are running in the newly formed 47th district that encompasses a lot of Long Beach. What other cities does it encompass?
That's correct. It's 60% in Los Angeles County. It's Long Beach being 53%. The other 7 is Avalon, Signal Hill, and parts of Lakewood. And then it's 40% in Orange County. It's the communities of Rossmore, Los Alamitos, Cypress, and portions of Westminster, Stanton, and Garden Grove.
So why did you choose to run?
You know, I chose to run because I'm very concerned about the current direction of our country. I think we're heading the wrong direction. I think we're in a hole, and we keep digging and making it deeper.
What specifically is the hole you're speaking of?
Well, certainly the most visible thing is the economy, right? The economy has been trashed. We're deficit spending at an exorbitant rate. We are passing all our debts on to our kids and our grandkids, and that just isn't, it's not the moral thing to do. We should not be doing it.
The latest reports are that the federal deficit is at about $15 trillion. So what would you cut?
Well, I think you have to do a couple of things. First of all, the federal government has doubled in size in the last 10 years. Think about that. It's increased by 100%. I mean, could you imagine in your personal life if you spend twice as much today as you did 10 years ago, or if you're a business owner and your expenses are twice as much? So first of all, you definitely need to reduce the size of government. And I'm not an anti-government person. I just think you shouldn't have any more government than you can afford. And today we have way more federal government than we can afford. So that's the first thing we need to do. But that won't be enough because we're deficit spending at $1.5 trillion a year. So not only do we need to reduce the cost of the federal government, but we also need to get the economy going again. So we need to be more supportive of the private sector. It can create jobs, it can grow, and candidly it can generate more tax revenues for federal, state, and local government.
So when you say that the government has doubled in size, can you be more specific about where has it doubled?
Well, it's doubled in cost, right? So it's twice expensive. We spend twice as much on federal government than we did 10 years ago. So we have more federal employees, we have more departments, we have more bureaus, we have more programs, we have more of everything. Candidly, we have more things than we can afford. We can't afford it.
So what would you do with Social Security?
Well, I think the problem with Social Security is that it's not sustainable. It's a great program. I think we all want it. I don't hear anybody saying we should abolish it, but it's going to hit the wall here in the not too distant future. So what we need to do is we need to figure out how to work together, both sides of the aisle, make it sustainable. So is that extending the retirement age? Perhaps. Is it means testing on the back end? Perhaps. Is it, increasing contributions? Perhaps. And maybe it's all those things. But the key is not is what's the solution, but can we agree that Social Security is broken and it's going to spend all its money, so we need to fix it before we get there?
Okay, so if you were going to fix Social Security, does that mean that you're going to cut it? Does it mean that people 10, 20, 30 years from now won't have it?
No, not at all. In fact, that's what I'm saying is I think that if you get out in front of it and you solve the problem, then you don't have to eliminate it 20 years from now because you'll prudently made the necessary changes today to preserve the system for the future. But it's quite possible that those that retire 30 years from now might have reduced benefits than somebody that's retiring in the next 5 years. That might be the appropriate thing to do. But we need to work together to figure out what that is.
And what else would you cut?
Well, I think, frankly, you need to cut everything. I mean, you can't have any sacred cows, because the minute you say, well, I'll cut everything but defense spending, I'll cut everything but Social Security, I'll cut everything but Medicare, I'll cut everything but, well, pretty soon the buts are so large there's nothing left. So you should go into the discussion with an open mind and say everything's on the table. Let's look at it, let's build consensus, let's collaborate, and let's come up with something that works the best as possible for everybody.
Congress has had such a difficult time coming to any conclusions, working together, compromising.
Yeah.
What makes you think that you can go in there and actually make a difference?
Well, if I didn't think I could make a difference, I wouldn't run, because it is a pretty significant impact on your life to do public service. So if I didn't think I could make a difference, I wouldn't run. But I think what we need is we need more moderates. We need people that are willing to compromise. We need people that don't have the attitude it's my way or the highway. They don't go in with a liberal agenda or an extreme conservative agenda. People just want to work with others, collaborate, and come up with solutions. I'm a very solutions-oriented person. That's been my track record at Long Beach, and that would be my track record in Washington.
So would you consider yourself a moderate Republican?
I'm a very moderate Republican.
You're a moderate Republican.
But I will acknowledge that I'm extraordinarily conservative financially. I mean, I do think we need to get to a balanced budget. I do think we need to be more pro-business. I do think we need to grow the economy. So on those things, I'm very conservative.
Where would you find yourself? Where do you think Democrats would really agree with your policies or your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I think that whether you're a Republican or Democrat, I think everybody wants to get the economy going again, right? Everybody wants to create jobs for their kids. Everybody wants to see those things happen. So to me, that's not a partisan issue. But in addition to that, I would say that I have a very strong environmental track record that would be appealing to both Republicans as well as Democrats. When I took office in Long Beach, 6 years ago, we got mostly C's and D's for water quality in the Alamitos Bay. Now it's A's and B's. We've had the best report card from Hill to Bay for our water quality in Long Beach than we've had in many, many years. We're doing great things with turning the Colorado Lagoon from a DNF polio pit to it's going to be a great body of water in the next year or two. So certainly on the environment, I've been very strong.
Now, you're endorsed by Governor George Deukmejian.
Correct.
Congressman Dan Lundgren.
That's right.
And LA County Supervisor Don Knabe, right?
As well as LA County Supervisor Mike Antonovich and Orange County Supervisor Janet Wynn and Orange County Congressman Ed Royce and many other elected officials in both counties. And
you're running against Los Alamitos in the Republican primary. You're running against Los Alamitos City Councilman Troy Edgar and former Congressman Steve Kuykendall.
Yes, now remember, for the first time, this is an open primary, right? So you're not running by parties anymore. You're running against each other. So candidly, from my perspective, really the only opponent I have is Alan Lowenthal. I mean, I do expect it'll be Alan and I in November, so candidly, that's who I think that my opponent is in June.
Okay, if he is your only opponent, Troy Edgar has raised approximately $220,000 for his campaign.
Actually, not. No, he hasn't raised it. What he did is he wrote himself a check.
Yes,
I mean, it's nice to have the cash, but I'll tell you, it's a big difference going out in the community, raising funds $100 at a time, or writing yourself a check.
Yes, a good portion of what he has in his coffers is his own money.
Yes,
sure.
Over 90%.
Yes, and Steve Kuykendall, last reported, was $23,000, which is about a 1/12 of what you've
raised.
Something
like that. Yes.
And Alan Lowenthal's raised $39,000.
Correct.
Now, this is what Alan Lowenthal said to lbreport.com regarding his campaign. He said, quote, "I can't imagine the campaign going any better than it is. I do believe that the expenditures that I will need in June will be far less than what we'll need for November. My goal now is to be the Democratic nominee." Do you think he's sort of resting on his laurels and waiting for you three Republicans to battle it out before he...
Well, and that's not a bad strategy either. I mean, I do agree. I think it's very, very likely that Alan will be one of the two top vote getters in June.
Okay, but if you're out there right now fighting hard, you're going to get most of the attention at the moment. Wouldn't he sort of be coming in June as sort of a late comer to the party?
Well, I certainly hope so. Time will tell. You never know in political campaigns how they go. But yes, that certainly is our strategy, was to get out early, work very hard, don't rest on our laurels, and build the momentum for a successful campaign in both June and November. And so far, so good.
So if he is, let's say for the sake of argument that he ends up being your competitor in the end, where do you differ with Alan Lowenthal? Where do you think that he is going to stumble in the campaign against you?
Well, I don't know if it's stumble. I would say that he and I have a different outlook on things. For example, in Long Beach, I've led the effort as chair of the Budget Oversight Committee to balance the budget every year. And we've made difficult decisions. Right? We've had to reduce the size of our police department. We've reduced funding in our fire department. We've reduced funding in public works projects. I mean, Long Beach has made a lot of serious, significant, hard decisions. At the state of California, they've done none of that. Alan hasn't demonstrated leadership. Alan hasn't led an effort to cut the budget because it's unpopular. It's very unpopular to cut things. You make people mad, right? All those special intergroup and constituencies are not happy when you make those difficult decisions. So I think that's a big difference. I've been a leader of balancing budgets. Alan's been more of a spender. Okay,
and so do you think that when it comes down to it, that you'd be better at balancing the budget than him in Congress?
Clearly. I mean, but that doesn't mean that Alan doesn't have strengths that I don't have. I just think that in 2012, with the focus being on getting our economy going, balancing the budget, doing all those kinds of things, I think somebody like me that's very fiscally conservative is a much better match than Alan Lowenthal would be. However, hopefully the economy turns around, we get things going again 6 or 8 years from now. He might be a better solution than a Gary DeLong would be at that point in time. It just depends where's the country and what are the needs of the country and who's the best match. In 2012, I think I'm the best match. After that, we'll have to wait and see.
What about Troy Edgar? Do you think he has a chance? He's got some pretty decent endorsements from the Orange County District Attorney and